I walked through my front door and stopped cold. My sister Brianna sat at my kitchen table with a man I recognized instantly. Mr. Phillips, the developer who had been trying to buy this property for 2 years. The same man I had firmly told no 3 times. Their voices were low and urgent. I caught the tail end of Brianna's whisper before they noticed me. Once we get Mom to sign the final documents, he won't have a choice but to sell. My chest tightened. They were talking about my house. Dad's house. The home he had spent 15 years restoring with his own hands. The place he left to me when he died 18 months ago. I stepped fully into the kitchen. The conversation died instantly. Brianna's face went pale, then flushed red. Mr. Phillips simply smiled, calm as ever. "Olivia," he said smoothly. "We were just discussing some paperwork. My name is Olivia Martinez. I'm 31 years old, originally from Sacramento, California. If you want to hear more stories like this one, please subscribe to this channel. Trust me, you won't believe what happened next. Paperwork about my property." I kept my voice steady despite the anger rising in my throat. Mr. Phillips stood, adjusting his expensive suit jacket. "You might want to check the city's zoning website. There's an application filed under your property address. It's all perfectly legal." He walked past me toward the door. Brianna followed without meeting my eyes. After they left, I stood in my kitchen, shaking. I didn't sleep that night. At 2 in the morning, I sat at my laptop and pulled up the City Planning Department website. My hands trembled as I typed my address into the search bar. There it was. A pending application to reclassify my residential property as mixed-use commercial. The application had been submitted 3 weeks ago. The date stung. That was right after I had gone to visit Mom for her birthday. I scrolled down, looking for the applicant information. My stomach dropped when I saw it. Primary applicant, Phillips Development Corporation. Co-applicant, Diane Martinez. My mother. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Mom had signed something. But what? And why? She knew how much this house meant to Dad. She knew how hard he had worked to restore every beam, every window, every inch of original 1940s craftsmanship. I grabbed my phone and called her. It rang 4 times before she answered, her voice thick with sleep. "Olivia? It's the middle of the night." "Mom, did you sign anything about my house?" Silence. Then I heard it. A small, choked sob. "Mom, I'm so sorry." Her voice broke completely. I didn't know what I was signing. Emily told me. She caught herself. Brianna told me it was just a review document. Mom arrived at my house the next morning with red, swollen eyes. She sat at the same kitchen table where Brianna had been plotting and pulled papers from her purse with shaking hands. "Brianna came to me 6 weeks ago," Mom explained. "She said you were overwhelmed with the property taxes and my medical bills. She said you were planning to sell anyway, but were too proud to ask for help." I felt sick. "Mom, I'm not overwhelmed. I've been paying everything on time." "I know that now." She pushed the papers toward me. She showed me these documents, said they were just for review purposes. She said you had already agreed to consider selling to Mr. Phillips, and this was part of the preliminary process. I picked up the top document. It was labeled Property Development Consent Form in small print at the bottom. Mom's signature was clear at the bottom. "This isn't a review document," I said quietly. "This is legal consent for the zoning application." Mom covered her face with her hands. She lied to me. My own daughter lied to me. "What else did she tell you?" Mom's hands dropped. Her expression was filled with shame and anger. "She said you had asked her to handle it because you were too stressed. She said you agreed." I called Brianna that afternoon. She answered on the first ring, sounding casual and unconcerned. "We need to talk," I said. "About what?" "You know exactly what. My house. Mom's signature. Mr. Phillips." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, all pretense was gone. Her voice was cold and hard. "Fine. Come over." I drove to her apartment across town, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. When she opened the door, she didn't even try to look apologetic. "You got everything," she said before I could speak. "Dad left you the house. The good house. The valuable property. I got nothing." "That's not true. You got his savings account and the car. $20,000 and a 15-year-old sedan?" She laughed bitterly. "While you got a property worth $500,000. Don't act like that's fair. Dad left me the house because I took care of him. I was here every day during his chemo. I helped with his restoration work. Where were you?"
"Working," she snapped.
"Some of us had jobs and lives and couldn't drop everything to play nurse." Mr. Phillips appeared behind her in the hallway. He had clearly been listening. "Your sister has already accepted an advance payment from my company," he said calmly. "When the zoning goes through, she'll receive the rest. If you fight this, you'll just delay the inevitable." What they didn't know was that 2 weeks before I discovered them in my kitchen, I had received a letter from the city. A quiet, bureaucratic notice that most people would have thrown away without reading carefully. The letter informed me that my property qualified for historical preservation review due to its architectural significance. The house had been built in 1947 with specific design elements that were now considered culturally important. If I applied for preservation status and it was approved, any commercial rezoning would become nearly impossible. I had read that letter 3 times, feeling something settle in my chest. Dad had told me stories about every room in this house. How he had found original crown molding at an estate sale. How he had restored the hardwood floors himself, matching the wood grain perfectly. How he had tracked down authentic 1940s light fixtures to replace the modern ones. I hadn't told anyone about the preservation letter.
Not Mom.
Not Brianna. Not even my best friend. Now, sitting in my car outside Brianna's apartment after that confrontation, I pulled up the city's preservation department website on my phone. The public hearing for my application was scheduled for 10 days from now. I had already submitted my application the day after I received the letter. Brianna had no idea what was coming. I didn't confront Brianna again directly. Instead, I hired an attorney. His name was Mr. Collins, and he specialized in property law and zoning disputes. He had good reviews and a reputation for being thorough and honest. When I showed him everything, the zoning application, Mom's forged consent, the preservation qualification letter, he leaned back in his chair and smiled. "This is manageable," he said, "but we need to be strategic." Over the next week, I gathered everything Dad had kept about the house restoration. Receipts for materials, before and after photographs, detailed notes about which elements were original and which had been carefully restored to match the period. Mr. Collins reviewed everything with a careful eye. On the 5th day, he called me into his office with a concerned expression. "I found something in the zoning application," he said. "Mr. Phillips claimed in his supporting documents that you were delinquent on property taxes and struggling financially. He used that as justification for why the rezoning would be beneficial. It would allow you to sell and relieve financial burden." I stared at him. "I'm not delinquent on anything. Every tax payment is current." He nodded. "I know. I checked public records. Someone falsified your financial situation." "Brianna." "Most likely. But we need to prove it." Mr. Collins did some digging into how Mr. Phillips had obtained information about my supposed financial distress. What we discovered made my blood run cold. The zoning application included copies of property tax bills that showed late payment notices. But I had never received late payment notices because I had never been late. "These are fabricated," Mr. Collins said, pointing at the documents on his desk. "But they're good fabrications. Whoever made these had access to real templates and account information." "How would Brianna get that?" Mr. Collins looked at me carefully. "Did she ever have access to your mail? Your financial documents?" I thought back. Then I remembered. During Dad's final months of chemotherapy, when I was exhausted and overwhelmed, Brianna had offered to help. She said she would collect Dad's mail, sort through bills, and make sure nothing important was missed. I had been grateful. I had given her the mailbox key and the security code for Dad's filing cabinet where he kept important papers. She had access, I said slowly. 2 years ago. For about 3 months. That would be enough, Mr. Collins said. She could have made copies of account numbers, tax bills, any financial documents. She wouldn't need ongoing access. Just enough to create convincing forgeries. Is that illegal? It's fraud. But proving it and prosecuting it are different things. He paused. The better strategy is to expose the falsification at the preservation hearing. Let the committee see that Mr. Phillips built his case on lies. The Preservation Committee scheduled a site inspection of the house 5 days before the hearing. I spent those days cleaning and organizing, making sure every restored detail was visible and documented. When the inspector arrived, she was a woman in her 50s named Mrs. Chun. Wait, I need to avoid that name. Mrs. Torres. She carried a clipboard and camera and moved through the house slowly, taking notes. Your father did this work himself? She asked, running her hand along the restored crown molding in the living room. Most of it. He spent 15 years on this project. She photographed the original hardwood floors, the period-appropriate light fixtures, the carefully preserved built-in bookshelves. In the kitchen, she paused at the vintage tile backsplash. This is original?
Yes.
Dad cleaned and red-droughted it, but every tile is from 1947. Mrs. Torres smiled. This is exceptional work. I've inspected dozens of properties for preservation status. This is one of the best examples of authentic restoration I've seen. I felt something loosen in my chest. Does that mean approval is likely? I'll submit my report to the committee, but based on what I've seen, I would be surprised if this wasn't approved. She made a few more notes. The hearing is in 5 days. I'll have my report submitted by tomorrow. After she left, I called Mr. Collins to tell him the good news. He sounded pleased but cautious. Don't celebrate yet. Mr. Phillips will fight back. He was right. 3 days before the hearing, Mr. Collins called me with bad news. A complaint was filed against your property this morning. Anonymous. It claims the house has structural instability and poses a safety risk to the neighborhood. That's ridiculous. The inspector just certified the structure as sound. I know, but the complaint triggers another review. It could delay the preservation hearing. I felt rage building in my chest. This is Mr. Phillips, isn't it? I can't prove it yet, but I'm working on it. By that evening, Mr. Collins had traced the digital footprint of the complaint submission. It had been filed online through the city's complaint portal at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon. I contacted a friend in the city's IT department, Mr. Collins explained. The complaint came from an IP address registered to Phillips Development Corporation. Can we use that? Not as direct proof, but we can present the timeline. Show the committee how conveniently this complaint appeared right after the positive inspection report. The preservation hearing was held in a conference room at City Hall. About 20 people attended, including Mr. Phillips, Brianna, and several neighbors I recognized. Mr. Collins and I sat at one table. Mr. Phillips and his lawyer sat at another. Brianna sat behind them, her face calm and confident. The committee chair called the meeting to order and asked Mr. Phillips to present his case first. He stood, looking professional and reasonable. The proposed rezoning would allow for mixed-use development that would revitalize this neighborhood. The current owner, while well-meaning, is struggling financially and cannot maintain the property long-term. This development would benefit everyone. Then it was my turn. I stood up, my legs shaking but my voice steady. Mr. Collins had coached me on what to say and how to say it. My name is Olivia Martinez. This house belonged to my father. He spent 15 years restoring it to its original 1947 condition using authentic materials and techniques. Every claim about financial distress is false. I placed the tax receipts on the table in front of the committee. I am current on all property taxes. I have never been delinquent. The documents Mr. Phillips submitted claiming otherwise are fabricated. The committee chair picked up the receipts and compared them to the documents in Mr. Phillips's application. Her expression changed. Mr. Phillips, can you explain this discrepancy? He remained calm. I relied on information provided to me in good faith. By whom? He glanced at Brianna but said nothing. Mr. Collins stood. I'd like to submit the historical preservation qualification letter the city sent to Ms. Martinez. Her property meets all criteria for protection. Additionally, I have Mrs. Torres's inspection report, which found the property exceeds preservation standards. He placed both documents before the committee. The room shifted. I could feel it. The committee members were paying attention now, their faces serious and thoughtful. The chair looked at Mr. Phillips. These are significant inconsistencies in your application. This hearing is about historical preservation, not rezoning. We will reconvene after reviewing all evidence. The committee will vote in 7 days. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 4 days later, Mr. Collins called me with news that made my hands shake. Another complaint was filed, this time claiming noise violations and property code violations. How is that possible? I live alone, and I barely make noise. It's harassment, plain and simple. Mr. Phillips is trying to create a pattern of problems with your property. If enough complaints pile up, the committee might question whether preservation status is appropriate. Can we stop him? We can prove the pattern. I've documented the timing of every complaint. They all appeared after you applied for preservation. That's not a coincidence. But there was more damage coming. That evening, Brianna posted on social media. She didn't mention me by name, but anyone who knew our family would understand. Sometimes family members prioritize things over people. Watching someone destroy their own future out of stubbornness is heartbreaking. The post got dozens of sympathetic comments. People who didn't know the real story offered her support and called me selfish without using my name. I wanted to respond. I wanted to defend myself. But Mr. Collins advised against it. Let her dig her own hole, he said. The truth will come out. Mom called me late that night. Her voice was quiet and sad. I saw Brianna's post. I called her. We fought. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I need to see the house. I need to remember why your father loved it so much. She came over the next morning. We walked through every room together, and I showed her Dad's restoration work. The beams he had sanded and refinished by hand. The windows he had repaired instead of replaced. The built-in cabinets he had reconstructed using the original hardware. In the living room, Mom stopped and touched the crown molding Dad had been so proud of finding. He worked on this for 6 months, she whispered. I remember. He would come home with his hands covered in sawdust, so happy because he had found a matching piece. She turned to me with tears in her eyes. Brianna lied to me.
She said you wanted to sell.
She said Dad would have understood. Dad specifically left me this house because he knew I would protect it. I know. Mom wiped her eyes. I'll testify. At the preservation hearing. I'll tell them what Brianna did. Mom, you don't have to do that. She's your daughter. So are you, Mom said firmly. And you're the one telling the truth. Mr. Collins and I spent the next 2 days preparing for the final hearing. He had uncovered more evidence of the fabricated financial claims. The medical debt story is false too, he told me. Brianna told your mother that her medical bills were causing you financial hardship. But I checked. Insurance covered most of your mother's treatment. The remaining balance is minimal. So the entire urgent sale narrative was a lie. Completely. Mr. Phillips needed justification for the rezoning. Brianna gave it to him. Whether she made it up herself or he coached her, we'll probably never know. I decided to confront Brianna one more time before the hearing. I needed to understand why she had done this. I drove to her apartment and knocked. She answered looking tired and defensive. What do you want? I want to understand. Why did you do this? Why did you lie to Mom? Why did you work with Mr. Phillips? She stared at me for a long moment. Then she stepped back and let me in. We sat in her living room, and for the first time in months, she looked vulnerable. I'm in debt, she said quietly. My business failed 2 years ago. I owe $60,000 to creditors. I've been hiding it from everyone. Why didn't you ask for help? She laughed bitterly. Ask for help from my little sister, who got the house? Ask for help from Dad's favorite. I wasn't his favorite. He left me the house because I was there.
Exactly.
You were there. You were always there. Perfect Olivia, taking care of Dad, helping with everything. What was I supposed to do? I looked at my sister and saw someone I barely recognized. You could have told the truth. You could have asked me for a loan. Instead, you tried to steal my house. I wasn't stealing it. I was helping you sell it before you lost it. I was never going to lose it, Brianna. That was a lie you told yourself to justify what you were doing. She stood up, her face hardening again. You don't understand. Mr. Phillips offered me $50,000. That would clear most of my debt. Start fresh. By destroying what Dad built. By lying to Mom. By committing fraud. Fraud? She laughed. That's dramatic. You falsified financial documents. You forged tax records. That's actual fraud. Her face went pale. I didn't forge anything. Mr. Phillips's people handled the paperwork. You provided the information. You're complicit. She sat down heavily. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she looked at me with cold calculation. If you push this, I'll contest Dad's will. I'll claim you manipulated him when he was sick. I'll make sure everyone knows you pressured a dying man into leaving you everything. I felt sick. That's not what happened. Doesn't matter. The will can be challenged. Do you want a long, public legal battle? I stood up. Do what you need to do, Brianna. But I'm not selling the house. That night, I couldn't sleep. Brianna's threat echoed in my head. Could she really contest the will? Would people believe her? Then I remembered something. Something I had hidden away because it felt too private, too painful to share. 3 months before Dad died, when he knew the cancer was winning, he had asked me to bring a video camera to the hospital. He said he wanted to record some thoughts for the family. I had assumed it was general messages, memories, advice, love. But when I watched the video later, alone in my grief, I realized it was something more specific. Dad had explained, clearly and calmly, why he was leaving the house to me. I'm leaving the house to Olivia because she understands what it means. She helped me restore it. She learned the history of every room. She promised me she would protect it and keep it in the family. Brianna is my daughter and I love her, but she never connected with this house the way Olivia did. This isn't about favoritism. This is about legacy. I had never shown that video to anyone. It felt too personal, too much like Dad was defending his choice from beyond the grave. But now, with Brianna threatening to contest the will, I realized the video wasn't just a personal message. It was evidence. Legal, documented evidence of Dad's intentions and mental state. I called Mr. Collins and told him about it. Bring it to the hearing, he said. If Brianna makes accusations, we'll have the response ready. The final preservation committee hearing was packed. More neighbors had come, curious about the dispute that had been growing in the community. Mr. Phillips sat with his lawyer, looking confident. Brianna sat beside him, her expression unreadable. Mom sat beside me, her hands folded in her lap. The committee chair called the meeting to order. We've reviewed all submitted evidence. Before we vote, does anyone have final statements? Mr. Phillips stood. The committee should consider that this preservation application is being used as a weapon in a family dispute. Ms. Martinez's sister has expressed concerns about her father's true intentions regarding the property. Brianna stood. My father was very sick when he made his will. I believe my sister influenced his decisions during a vulnerable time. The room went quiet. This wasn't about preservation anymore. This was about inheritance and family conflict. The committee chair looked uncomfortable. This hearing is specifically about historical preservation status, not inheritance disputes. But the property's future is relevant, Mr. Phillips argued. If there's legitimate question about ownership, preservation status becomes premature. Mr. Collins stood. May I present evidence? The chair nodded. Mr. Collins set up a laptop and projected the video onto the screen at the front of the room. Dad's face appeared, thinner than I remembered, but his eyes were clear and his voice was steady. My name is Michael Martinez. I'm recording this on March 15th, 3 months before I passed. I want to be clear about my intentions regarding my house. The room was completely silent. Dad continued. I'm leaving my house to my daughter Olivia. Not because I love her more than Brianna, but because Olivia understands what this house represents. She helped me restore it. She learned the history. She promised to protect it. This is about legacy and trust. If anyone questions this decision after I'm gone, I want them to know I made it with a clear mind and a full heart. The video ended. I wiped tears from my face. The committee chair cleared her throat. Thank you for that evidence. The committee will now vote on the preservation application. They voted quickly. 5 members, 5 raised hands. The property at 847 Maple Street is hereby granted historical preservation status. All requests for commercial rezoning are denied. I felt Mom's hand squeeze mine. Mr. Collins smiled. Across the room, Mr. Phillips stood and walked out without a word. Brianna followed, her face flushed with humiliation and anger. The preservation status was official. The house was protected. The commercial rezoning was dead. But I knew this wasn't over. 2 weeks later, Mr. Collins called with news I had been expecting. Your sister has filed a civil suit contesting your father's will. She's claiming undue influence and demanding the property be split equally between you. Can she win? Not likely, especially with that video. But there's something else. He paused. Your father's will contains a no contest clause. If Brianna sues and loses, she forfeits the savings account and car. She gets nothing. Does she know that? Her lawyer should have told her. But people don't always listen when they're angry. I thought about calling Brianna to warn her. Then I remembered her face in that hearing room when she accused me of manipulating Dad. I remembered her working with Mr. Phillips to steal my house. I didn't call. 3 weeks later, Brianna's lawsuit was dismissed. The judge reviewed Dad's video, the detailed will, and the no contest clause. The ruling was brief and definitive. There is no evidence of undue influence. The will is valid. Due to the no contest clause, Brianna Martinez forfeits her inheritance. She lost everything. The $20,000 went back into Dad's estate, which meant it came to me. The car was sold, and those proceeds came to me too. I hadn't wanted it to happen this way. Despite everything, she was still my sister. But she had made her choices. Mr. Phillips faced his own consequences. The city's planning department launched an investigation into his zoning application after Mr. Collins filed a formal complaint about the falsified financial documents. 2 other property owners came forward with similar stories. Mr. Phillips had used questionable tactics before, fabricating hardship claims to justify rezoning. His business license was suspended pending investigation. His other development project stalled. His reputation in the community crumbled. He never apologized. He simply disappeared, his office closing quietly one Friday afternoon. Brianna was left alone, her debt still unpaid, her relationship with the family destroyed, her credibility gone. For a while, things were quiet. I focused on the house, making small improvements while honoring Dad's restoration work. Mom came over weekly for dinner. We talked about Dad, about good memories, about the future. We didn't talk about Brianna. Then, 3 months after the lawsuit was dismissed, my phone rang late one night. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. Olivia? Brianna's voice was small and strained. I need to talk to you. I'm listening. Mr. Phillips is suing me. He wants his advance payment back. He says I breached our contract because the rezoning failed. I said nothing. I don't have the money anymore. I already spent it paying down debt. If he wins, I'll have to declare bankruptcy. What do you want from me? Help. A loan. Anything. Please. I thought about all the times she had helped herself to my trust, my property, my family. I thought about her sitting in my kitchen with Mr. Phillips, plotting. I thought about her lying to Mom and accusing me of manipulating Dad. No, I said quietly. What? I won't give you money, but I'll help you another way. I'll connect you with a financial advisor who can help you structure a payment plan with your creditors. I'll help you find a bankruptcy attorney if it comes to that. But I won't give you money to fix a problem you created. That's it? That's all you'll do? That's all I can do, Brianna. You made choices. This is the consequence. She started crying. I lost everything. You tried to take everything from me first. What did you expect would happen? She hung up. 6 months passed. The house settled into its new protected status. I received a letter from the city confirming that because of the historical preservation designation, my property taxes would be reduced by 40%. The house was safer and more secure than ever. I stood in the living room one evening, looking at the crown molding Dad had loved so much. The late afternoon sun made the wood grain glow warm and golden. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Dinner this Sunday? Definitely, I wrote back. Another text came through, this one from Mr. Collins. Thought you'd want to know. Phillips Development Corporation filed for bankruptcy. Multiple lawsuits from property owners. It's over for him. I set the phone down and walked through the house, room by room. Each space held memories of Dad's work. His patience. His dedication. His love for this place. I thought about Brianna, sometimes. Part of me felt sad for her. Part of me was still angry. Mostly, I felt tired of the whole situation. I had won, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. Mom stood on the porch holding a casserole dish. I know it's not Sunday, she said, smiling, but I made your favorite. We ate dinner together at the kitchen table. The same table where Brianna and Mr. Phillips had plotted. But that memory felt distant now, less sharp and painful. Have you heard from her? Mom asked quietly.
No.
Have you? She called last week. Asked for money. What did you say? I said no. Mom met my eyes. I told her I love her, but I can't enable her anymore. She needs to fix her own problems. Life moved forward. I got a promotion at work. I started dating someone I met through friends. I planted roses in the front garden, carefully choosing varieties that would have existed in 1947. The house became truly mine, not through conflict or victory, but through time and care. One afternoon, I was working in the garden when a car pulled up to the curb. Brianna got out. We hadn't spoken in 8 months. She looked thinner, tired, older somehow. I'm not here to ask for anything, she said, standing at the edge of the lawn. I just wanted to see the house. I stood up, brushing dirt from my hands. Okay. She walked slowly up the path, looking at the restored porch, the original windows, the carefully maintained yard. Dad really did love this place, she said softly.
He did.
I was jealous. When he left it to you, I was so angry. It felt like proof that he loved you more. It wasn't about love. It was about understanding. She nodded slowly. I know that now. Too late, but I know it. We stood in uncomfortable silence for a moment. I'm filing for bankruptcy, she said. Phillips won his lawsuit. I can't pay. I'm sorry. Are you? She looked at me directly for the first time. I tried to take your house. I lied to Mom. I destroyed our family. Why would you be sorry? Because you're still my sister. Because I wish things were different. She wiped her eyes. I don't deserve your sympathy. Probably not. But you have it anyway. Brianna didn't ask to come inside. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She simply looked at the house one more time, nodded once, and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away, feeling something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly. Maybe acceptance. Maybe just exhaustion with anger. Mom called that evening. Brianna told me she went to see you. She did. How was it?
Sad.
But okay, I think. I paused. I don't know if we'll ever be close again. Maybe not. But maybe someday you'll be civil. That's something. After we hung up, I walked through the house again, turning on lights room by room. I had protected this place through legal battles and family conflict. I had proved Dad's trust in me was justified. But more than that, I had learned something about myself. I could stand up for what mattered. I could be strategic without being cruel. I could win without losing who I was. The preservation status meant the house would stand for generations. Other families would live here eventually, maybe understanding what made it special, maybe not. But for now, it was mine. Protected, preserved, and finally at peace. I locked the front door that night and stood in the quiet living room. Dad's house. My house. A legacy earned through patience and principle rather than manipulation or force. And in the end, that meant everything. Years passed. The house remained a constant, beautiful anchor in my life. I married the man I had been dating, and we made the house our home together. Mom became a regular presence, helping us paint rooms and plant gardens. Brianna rebuilt her life slowly and painfully. She found work, paid down her bankruptcy debts, and moved to a different city for a fresh start. We exchanged Christmas cards but rarely spoke. The historical preservation status brought unexpected benefits. Architecture students requested tours to study Dad's restoration techniques. A local historical society featured the house in their annual guidebook. I gave occasional tours, sharing Dad's stories about each room. One afternoon, a young couple knocked on the door. They were first-time homebuyers looking at properties in the neighborhood. "We heard this house is historically preserved," the woman said. "Could you tell us about it?" I invited them in and told them everything. About Dad's 15-year restoration project. About the original 1947 materials. About the battle to protect it from commercial development. "Why did you fight so hard?" the man asked. "Because some things matter more than money," I said. "My father taught me that. This house represented his dedication, his patience, his love. I couldn't let someone destroy that for profit." They nodded, looking around with new appreciation. After they left, I thought about how different my life would be if I had given up. If I had let Mr. Phillips and Brianna win. If I had chosen the easy path. I would have lost more than a house. I would have lost my integrity. The final piece of justice came unexpectedly. 3 years after the preservation hearing, Mr. Collins called with interesting news. "Remember Mr. Phillips? He's facing criminal charges. The state attorney general investigated his business practices. Turns out he did the falsified document scheme with multiple properties. He's looking at fraud charges. Will he go to prison? Probably not. He'll likely take a plea deal, pay fines, lose his business licenses permanently. But his career is over." I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. I hadn't wanted to destroy Mr. Phillips. I had just wanted to protect my house. But his own greed had been his downfall. Brianna called me after she heard the news. It was the first time we had spoken in over a year. "I'm sorry," she said. "For everything. I know it's too late, but I need to say it. Thank you. I was desperate and stupid. I let Phillips convince me that what we were doing was okay. It wasn't. I betrayed you." "Yes, you did. Can you forgive me?" I thought about that question for a long time. I don't know. Maybe eventually. For now, I can be civil. We can be sisters, even if we're not close. That's more than I deserve. Probably. But family is complicated. We talked for an hour, carefully and honestly. It wasn't reconciliation. It was acknowledgement. We would never be what we were before, but we could be something new. I'm 40 years old now. 9 years have passed since that day I walked into my kitchen and heard Brianna plotting with Mr. Phillips. 9 years since I discovered the preservation letter. 9 years since I fought for my father's legacy. The house stands strong, protected by law and by love. My husband and I raised our daughter here, teaching her the history of every room. She knows her grandfather's stories. She understands what preservation means. Sometimes I walk through the house at night, turning off lights, checking locks, feeling grateful for the life I built here. I think about the person I was before the conflict. Softer, maybe. Less certain of my own strength. The battle taught me I could face opposition without losing myself. I could fight without becoming cruel. I could win without compromising my values. I never celebrated Brianna's losses. I never gloated over Mr. Phillips's downfall. Those victories felt hollow. The real victory was simpler and more profound. I kept my promise to Dad. I protected what he built. I honored his legacy. And when I lock the front door each night, standing in the house he restored with his own hands, I know I did right. Not because I won, but because I fought for something worth fighting for. The end.